inherit apartments, or they in Europe they always tend to just keep things for the children and pass on all these apartments or land or whatever.
Yes, it's true.
I mean, they do that in the Basque Country as well.
So we're set up, and then I went out on the promenade every day.
Yeah, there you painted.
I painted
because you had the what's the Loi Malraux?
Oh, the Loi Malraux, yeah, which is the.
What's that?
Well, this is actually a law that a gentleman in France a long time ago named Malraux decided that he would allow artists to sell their works, 3 pieces, so long as you were actually participating and painting on the spot.
Okay.
And so every artist in Cannes, whenever a policeman came around, we just talk about the Loi Malraux. And even the police knew about it, and they'd say, yeah sure, but you can only have 3, you can't have 10 paintings out, you can only have 3,
On display, but you can have a stock behind as well.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
All the artists did what they wanted.
But in the end, they didn't bother us. We used to have more than 3 out
quite
anyway.
A few artists.
But it was a nice little giveaway for artists to be able to demonstrate and show their work and sell, actually sell, which is amazing,
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, but there was one thing I forgot to mention because it's regarding the big face. So when we were in Barcelona, we still had, the what's his name, Manuel, who we met in Blanes, right? Yeah. I think they had some.
We went to his house, and Joanne got infatuated by a large painting.
It was his father's apartment.
Of his father.
1-floor apartment.
Yeah, his beautiful big apartment, and this face was like 5 foot square.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what she got excited about.
Yeah, so I had said to Paul, oh my gosh, look at this. This is unbelievable. I'd never seen a portrait that large. So I said to him immediately, what do you think for your natives?
Yeah,
and he said, that could be interesting. So he didn't do that until Tala's birth. Maybe it was sometime in July that you did the first 4x4 high-def chief.
That's right, yeah. 4x4.
And it was at the foot of our bed. The first night I get up and I scream blue murder. Who the heck is this? Oh
she
my
hadn't
God.
seen me finish it. So.
So it was dark and it looked like the Haida spirit was with us.
Anyway, then...
That was a... I know your paintings these days, and there's still a lot of big portraits and facial portraits. At least 4 foot square, and I guess that all comes back to that meeting in that apartment with Manel in his father's apartment.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So that's pretty important, really, isn't it?
Triggered the idea of
It's amazing. There's just
like the book that Joanne found in Canada of the natives started me off on that.
Exactly. So all these moments are very key, aren't they, along the way?
That's right, little things like that. Yeah.
I mean, some people may not pick up. And that's how maybe they have problems, right?
True.
Because you've always got to be alert.
And I mean, believe it or not, on the promenade in Cannes, I have sold more native faces. To Germans love them. Germans go crazy for the totem poles, and so I was selling a lot of the native.
But the first Frenchman.
Oh, he's amazing.
And I just happened to be there, and it was like I was asking him something pretty stupid, right? And he was elegantly dressed, and so I asked him, why did you choose this particular painting? He's probably thinking some North American asking something stupid. And he said, mais c'est unique. It's unique for gosh sakes.
Right.
Why else would I?
And that one, I think it was him, or maybe not him, but a person from Cannes must have bought 35 paintings of natives off me.
Oh, this is later. This is another year.
That was another
year.
Yeah,
this wasn't yet.
But he owned a big recycling company.
Yeah, that's
anyway. So
he wasn't recycling them, was he? No.
We'll tell you about him later.
Okay. So, anyways, you were on the way to finding food for me because Joanne's going to go into the hospital soon.
Well, first of all, I wanted all these à la naturelle and all the breathing, technique and everything. The thing is, so that those 2 months I used to have to go once a week to meet the sage-femme at La Clinique Tessia, right? And the thing was, I could hardly, because that's a long time back, I could hardly understand what they were saying. And I used to come back to Paul and
I had to train.
Because, you have to go...
the breathing.
Like, woof, and I said, oh my God, I don't know which time or what time. Oh, no. And this one sage-femme was so strict. So I was hoping that it wasn't her, but...
Anyway, so we're on the way buying food for me because we knew she was going to be going in the hospital in a week or whatever. And their water broke on the way there to the shop.
Outdoors.
So we
casino. The casino,
right?
Casino.
So we never did buy my food for the week.
Yeah, he ate out all week.
So she ends up going to the hospital and everything, and then I guess the baby was born the next night.
Baby.
Tala was born the next day. And so I'm...
Oh, well, that's what happened. Overnight, I'm there overnight, and I'm praying that Saj Fan that's so strict.
Wouldn't
and
be
I'm
the one
frightened
to do it
of
with
her.
you, yeah.
And, oh, my gosh, 6 in the morning, I can see her, just like the military. and she's, like, marching past. Oh, no. But you know what? In the end, she was the best, of course. And we even gave her the pen and ink again.
That's right.
Yeah, because, she...
So meanwhile, I haven't had any food hardly, so eating out most of the time because I had no food in the house. And so I went to the Carlton after the baby was born. I went to the Carlton to celebrate.
To wet the baby's head.
Tala was born.
After Tala was born, yeah. Well, she's
I must.
What are you talking about?
I must just interject that this is, of course, Tala, your wonderful daughter, and the producer of this podcast, co-producer of this podcast, and the creator of this blog, etc., etc. So that was the lovely Tala was born, in 1979. Yeah, do go on.
So I end up deciding I'm going to go celebrate at the Carlton. So I went in the bar in the Carlton and sat down, and this chap was sitting next to me. So I turned to him and said, "Oh, hi there. My name's, Paul, and he said, mine's John." I said, "Look, can I buy you a drink?" He said, "Well, why would you want to buy me a drink?" I said, "Well, I'm celebrating the birth of my daughter, and I'd like to buy you a drink." Okay. Well, he said, I'm drinking triple Glenlivets."
Very expensive.
So I said, "Oh, that's okay. I'll have the same or whatever." I mean, these are about €60 a drink, right?
Well, I don't know that.
They weren't cheap, I can tell you. In the Carlton, you're kidding. The beer was €15 just for a little beer.
Yeah, probably.
So anyway, I didn't care. I just thought, okay, So I bought him a drink, and then about 10 minutes later, he says, "Oh, I'd like to buy you a drink now." So we went on like this for a few drinks.
Drinking.
Well, yeah. No, this was over a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And so, he chatted, and I said, yeah. He said, "Oh, congratulations," and everything. He says, yeah. He says, "I've got a nice daughter. I love my daughter so much, but I'm not so happy with my son-in-law. Don't really like him we don't really get on very well and all of this, right?" Okay. So I didn't think much about it, and then I started just finishing off chatting to him, and he said, "Well, I got to go now." This was after 2 hours. He must have been drunk, I think. And he lifted his arm up. And this massive big black guy who was sitting in the background came over and helped him off his seat. And I suddenly realised he was about 6'3". Yeah, his bodyguard. And he was about 6'3", and he staggered off. And he's going up these stairs, and on the way up the stairs, he leans over and says, "Bye, Paul." And I said, "Oh, bye." And he nearly fell off the stairs. And as he disappeared, the barman came over and said, "Hey, you know who that was?" I said, "No, who?" "John Huston, the director."
Yeah. And his daughter, Angelica.
And his daughter was obviously Angelica Huston. And
Jack
Nicholson. with his son-in-law that he didn't like.
No, I don't know.
Or didn't get on with, anyway, whatever.
And so you were, blissfully unaware.
Blissfully unaware,
yeah.
Anyway, the bill came to about 400 or 500 euros or something.
Yeah. Normally you don't go into the Carlton.
We don't go into the Carlton. Well, no. I told him I was an artist. And he said, "Well, how can an artist afford to come and drink in here, you see?"
It's
so
a fair
point.
I'm
celebrating, Sure.
Yeah, I didn't explain too much.
No, I didn't. Actually, I went back to the Carlton a couple of times.
Oh, yeah, for one of beers.
Chris Walken was there one night. And all these guys drink there during the film festival. You bump into all kinds of people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you were there during the film festival?
We were, not this time.
Not this time.
Okay.
But we were for, the 6-year deal.
Yeah. Oh, many
times.
We were there,
quite a few times, right?
They were good times.
For a lot of people would imagine that either for lots of people's careers, either kids puts the brakes on things, or it forces people to to take stock and change what they're doing, but evidently that wasn't in your plans or your philosophy. So tell us where you sit on that spectrum of philosophy.
We wanted to introduce the same lifestyle to our children anyway. That wasn't going to be an issue. And the thing is, with a baby,
very educational.
With a baby, it's like having a little puppy. What the heck? I mean, they don't demand much except food and but before they go to school, you're not tied down at all. So you've got 5 years.
But we always
travel the world if you wanted to. I never thought of having tied kids down.
Well, we always figured as well that. Well, of course, it's educational. The children are exposed to language, different customs, different country, different people. And when they're little, I mean, they love everything because everything's changing all the time. And we were always out.
They loved expensive restaurants.
Well, they do, We always had breakfast.
You take them to McDonald's and they're going to scream and yell, but because everyone else is, the kids are. But you take them to a nice posh restaurant. Wow. They realise it's something different. They've got to behave here.
Well, Tala was...
You're talking about Tala.
Tala, both of our kids in the end, but Tala definitely loved being entertained in restaurants, of course.
Then we had Paul's parents. They were in the Basque Country, and so then they flew in with Tia Olaya, Pablo's sister.
Flew in and stayed at our place for
my parents,
a few days.
Yeah. They came for a week.
Then your parents came.
My parents, they thought, we'll do Greece first. They hadn't been back to Europe for...
They were on a cruise, wasn't they?
I think, a cruise. And then they said, we'll come for 2 weeks to Cannes. And I always remember they had that big firework festival.
Oh, yeah.
And we went down to the beach. We actually sat on the sand, right?
Yeah.
That's quite a narrow beach as well.
And
it was like bombing going on.
That was the best firework display we've ever seen in our life. It was like, it was a competition between 3 or 4 different countries and bang.
But the thing was, Tala, she was an incredible sleeper. Oh, yeah. She slept through all of it.
The whole thing.
It was like bombs going on.
Explosions and everything. She didn't even blink. She was always a good sleeper.
Yeah, she was an excellent sleeper.
One day I was talking to my friends saying how good she slept, and they didn't believe it. So I went in the bedroom and picked her up by one leg and carried her in the room asleep upside down.
I think you might have been a little more careful.
No, it's the truth. And then I carried her back and lay her back in bed. She didn't even blink.
Anyway, she was...
and she was probably about 3 or 4 then.
Oh, later.
Yeah, that was later,
But it's probably something to being in that situation already that makes you, that brings up the baby. It sort of educates them to be that way because they're already in that. They're growing up in a situation that they regard as normal, so they will not freak out about stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
And, we wanted to introduce language and... everything was important and interesting, and so we would point everything out. Like she's a little person there, and
Indeed.
we're going to go here. We're going to.
The only thing is with babies, of course, in France, in restaurants, they do not like to have a baby crying in one of these restaurants.
No.
So if that ever happened, I just pick her up and out we go. I just walk out with her and come back in later when she's crying.
Remember, we had one client, and she was a wonderful lady.
Oh, yeah.
She was about 90.
Oh,
and
that's right.
Her husband was famous symphonic group in New York.
That's right, concert pianist or something. That's right.
One of the big names. And she said, I want you to do a portrait of me and my husband. And she wanted to spend a couple of months discussing it with you on the promenade. They go every day. She ended up giving us an amazing, huge tapestry.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to mention that, like, Paul's very practical. So I was very lucky. Like, I didn't know how to do anything. Like, I said to Paul, I only had babysat twice in my life, and that was a disaster when I was like a teenager. So I haven't even changed a diaper. Oh, he says, don't worry. He said, I'm 9 years older than my brother. I did all of that stuff. I can show you. So, and Paul's just practical and fast, right? But so she invites us the first time to the restaurant.
That's right, yeah.
But I'm a nervous wreck. He says, don't worry, I'll take her out. And he always was so great at that. Paul would just pick up Tala and take her out.
Take her out to the restaurant,
and then bring her
in
back.
the bar next door, and have a drink while we eat.
Oh, you were
And
so
then
good
bring her
at that, Paul.
back.
And actually, she stops